night, a Charlotte Hornets player arrested and charged with DWI just 2 days before the team opens the regular season.
More definitively what happened, I can't comment on it.
It has been a very interesting offseason for the Charlotte Hornets, both on the court in regards to the acquisitions they made and in regards to the personnel changes they've decided to make, which I'm personally fond of, which we will talk about in just a sec, and unfortunately off the court, where several of their young stars found themselves in some hot water recently as a result of some decisions they made and some allegations that they've received. So we're gonna get to everything in just a sec. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. If you want shorter versions of this content, we also have a TikTok and an Instagram that we upload to at the Flight Mic for both. Now that we get all of that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Charlotte Hornets have had a pretty intriguing offseason. I think my favorite move that they decided to make was letting go of James Borrego, who was their old head coach, who wasn't really doing a good job relating to his players, at least in my opinion. He put LaMelo Ball in the doghouse for some reason in his rookie season, and he was a very controversial figure that I feel like couldn't take Charlotte Hornets team to the next level, and replacing him with the guy that was ironically the coach of the Charlotte Hornets prior to James Borrego. Now that individual is a man by the name of Steve Clifford, who I'm very fond of because historically Steve Clifford was hired in the 2013 season. This is when the Charlotte Hornets, well back then the Charlotte Bobcats, were coming off of one of the worst seasons in NFL history, and it looked like they had very little to no hope at that point. And he instilled a defense first type of mentality in each and every player, and although you didn't necessarily see the Charlotte Hornets eventually jump into contention, there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and it was a fun team to watch. You saw Kemba Walker also flourish as a result of this, and if the Charlotte Hornets made some better decisions, at least in regards to talent acquisition, maybe we'd be telling a different story. Now, fortunately, the Hornets recently have been doing a good job at acquiring talent. I mean, starting from Miles Bridges, who has really blossomed into a really good player for them, all the way to the recent decision to draft LaMelo Ball that completely changed the trajectory of this franchise. I mean, people that didn't watch Charlotte Hornets games are now watching Charlotte Hornets games because of how fantastic of a basketball player LaMelo Ball is, how entertaining he is. And I'm gonna admit, I'm one of those individuals. I was not watching the Charlotte Hornets on League Pass prior to LaMelo Ball. Yeah, I know, crazy. And now I am, because they are so awesome to watch. And I think this team is really ready to take their next step forward. Obviously, there are some things that are in the way in order to do so. One of those things is the fact that LaMelo Ball has unfortunately sustained a grade 2 sprain during the preseason, and as a result, he is not going to be able to play in the Charlotte Hornets' first game. But that aside, there have been multiple off-the-court incidents that seem to be holding this team back. The first one we've covered extensively on this channel, and I don't want to rehash old news. I'll give you a bit of a summary, and if you guys want to watch the whole video, well, we have shorts on it, TikToks on it, reels on it, and a full-length video on it on this channel, and that's the Miles Bridges situation. For the most part, man, this is a guy that really bet on himself this past year. He was offered a contract extension, he turned it down, and instead of becoming the next coming of Victor Oladipo or Dennis Schroeder, Miles Bridges became a breakout success. He went from averaging 12 points per game all the way to 20 points per game last year, and without a doubt, he became one of the franchise cornerstones for the Charlotte Hornets. Unfortunately, there were allegations that Miles Bridges was involved in some domestic violence, and it gets really graphic. This girl actually pulled out a video of their son explaining what happened and how the father raised a hand on the girl. I don't want to get into it. It's a really dark story, and I personally hope it is not true because it's a really horrific story. But it seems like while we are waiting on the verdict of that situation, because there has been no ruling on that situation at all whatsoever, there's another issue with some random Charlotte Hornets young talent, unfortunately. This time, it has to do with a player that has only been in the NBA for one season. He was the 11th overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft and a superstar during his time at UConn. That's James Bouknight. So this story in regards to James Bouknight is very, very unfortunate. I mean, I don't know how players put themselves in these situations. I want to be empathetic, but for the most part, this story is horrible because this individual truly did something very, very stupid. So the title of this article is NBA's James Bouknight arrested for driving while impaired, found unconscious in parking deck. Yes, that's literally what the title of this article says. Now, this is what went down. Charlotte Hornets guard James Bouknight was arrested for allegedly driving while impaired early Sunday morning, TMZ Sports has confirmed. You guys already know where this is going, man. It's really unfortunate. We see it way too much in sports, and it gets way worse. The 6'4", 160-pounder was booked around 1:51 a.m., according to the Mecklenburg Sheriff's Office in North Carolina. His bond was listed at $2,500. Bouknight's arrest adds to a hellish offseason for the Hornets after star Miles Bridges was accused of abusing his girlfriend in front of their children, and former Charlotte forward Montrezl Harrell, who recently signed with the 76ers, was also busted for having marijuana in his car. Now, currently, the Hornets released a statement saying that we are aware of the incident involving James Bouknight and are in the process of gathering additional information, and we will have no further comment at this time. Ironically, they put out like a similar statement once the Miles Bridges situation came to light. Now, we have more information on this. James Bouknight was found unconscious in a parking deck around 12:44 a.m., according to a police report that was obtained by TMZ. The report also indicates that James Bouknight had a Glock 23 and a 40mm gun with him at the time of the arrest. The report doesn't specify whether the gun was legal or illegal, though it doesn't appear Bouknight was charged for the weapon. Here's the thing, man. I'm very empathetic. Sometimes I'm too empathetic for my own good because I really feel that the world is an unforgiving place recently. I feel like people aren't willing to allow people to grow and learn from their mistakes. So a part of me wants to look at this individual and say, hey, this is a young kid. He made a mistake. Hopefully this is a traumatic enough instance that he looks at this mistake and he learns from this mistake and he never does something like this again. At the same time, I won't lie, I get terrified when I hear stories like this because I see a lot of stories like this. I mean, not necessarily on this YouTube channel, but on my Microphone NFL channel. This past year, I had to cover the Henry Ruggs incident, and then more recently, I covered a Marshawn Lynch DUI incident as well. And I guess what makes me so sensitive about these types of things is, one, you're an athlete, you make millions of dollars. And to be honest, getting a ride share or an Uber is a tax deductible for you. Like, there's no excuse for you not to get an Uber if you're way too wasted to drive. And what bothers me is I am terrified of one day having to cover a video again, because I had to cover a video like this during the Henry Ruggs incident that involved a young player, a young man, getting into an accident and ending a poor individual's life that didn't deserve to have their life ended, and at the same time ruining his own. And in this case, man, James Bouknight is so lucky. I mean, he is so freaking lucky that he was just found in a parking lot, passed out of his mind. That's the extent of it. No one else got hurt. That's it. I hope this is a wake-up call because Henry Ruggs wasn't that lucky. Henry Ruggs did something so horrific and horrible by getting into his Corvette, driving way over the speed limit, crashing into a poor woman and her dog, and having that poor woman get incinerated to death. Just like James Bouknight being the 11th overall pick in the NBA draft, in the 2021 NBA draft, which makes him some sort of franchise cornerstone or hopeful cornerstone for the Charlotte Hornets, Henry Ruggs was the 12th overall pick in the 2020 NFL draft. And I guess that's the reason I have to bring up his case every time I cover a situation like this. Because if this scenario goes wrong, you don't know how you're going to drive when you're drunk. If you accidentally hit a person driving the wrong angle, driving the wrong speed, whatever, and end their life, you have not only murdered an individual, but you've thrown away an opportunity at generational wealth. And instead, you're gonna go to prison. I'm happy that didn't happen to James Bouknight. I understand he's a young man. I understand young men make mistakes. I hope he learns from this mistake and never makes the same mistake again. Because at the end of the day, you're an athlete. You could afford an Uber. Hell, if you're trying to look flashy, just get an Uber Black. You'll look like a beast wherever you're trying to pull up. I I apologize if I sounded too redundant or too repetitive or too preachy in this video. It's a very sensitive topic to me because you could see a loss of life as a result of this negligence. Let me know what you guys think about this story in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.